That guy's going to be some senator one day.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to a brand new episode of the Jesse Hughes Show. As always, our ceremonial chair wine sip. Nothing better in the whole wide world than joining all of you guys, taking a sip of the chair wine and getting into the crazy things that are happening in our world today. Thank you guys so much for the love and support we had on the last episode with Nick Freitas. Nick is awesome. I love him so much. He is doing great things here in Virginia, and I'm glad you guys enjoyed that as well. So we've all seen the complaints about the church in America in the 21st century. Most of the time, these complaints revolve around the fact that, for the most part, you have some feckless pastors who like to stay silent on critical social issues that sometimes directly involve the church, but if not the church, directly involve subjects like what it means to be a person, what is a man, what is a woman, what are these creatures that God has created, what is the societal order of things, these important issues, they're theological issues. The church doesn't like to touch them. And even within the political sphere, there's still some issues that the church should address, but doesn't. Like, what does it mean to be a nation? Does God ordain nations and borders? I believe he does. What does God expect of a nation? Is there something worth preserving when it comes to that nation's culture and heritage? Most of the time, we're blessed to only have to complain about the fact that the church doesn't talk about these things. But now we're moving to a point where, depending on what church you go to, if you do talk about these things in your own private capacity, as a private person, a private citizen opining about what's happening to his country, if you do talk about these things, you might want to watch out, or you might get a call from your elder board. That's exactly what happened to our guest here tonight. Please, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the Jesse Hughes Show, Mr. Daniel Keene. Daniel, how are you doing this evening?
Good. How you doing, Jesse?
Doing great. So just, explain for the audience briefly, who are you? Where are you from? What do you do? Who is Daniel Keene?
Yeah. So I live in DFW, Dallas-Fort Worth area, born and raised. Married my high school sweetheart. Went to a public school until my senior year. Went to a private school, a private Christian school. Went off to University of Arkansas and graduated there. Stuck around for a while, and we started a business up there, and then wanted to move back closer to family. And so I opened a coffee business down here in North Texas, and been doing that for a while, and really enjoying it. So small business owner. I've got 3 kids now, and Baptist. Became Christian when I was a freshman in college, and just living the regular American life, I guess.
Awesome. I don't mean to already take us off on a side tangent only a couple minutes into the video, but I have to ask, how are we feeling about Bobby Petrino being back at the helm?
Dude, it's crazy. It's crazy. I was there. It was miserable. It was a miserable experience being at University of Arkansas at the time I was at. So I was there 2013 to 2017. So it was not fun at all. So it's hard for me to have the passion that I think most people want me to have. So, but yeah, it's always an interesting experience. I'm also a Cowboys fan, so it's not fun all around.
All right, so we've already hit on 3 different points where you and I are not going to be friends for the rest of this episode, because one, I'm a Liberty student. Obviously, we beat y'all at homecoming in 2022. That's crazy. Still, I can't. I had to jump in a pond because of that game, so I hope you
I'm
feel.
glad that was good for you. Yeah,
I had
that
to
is
jump in a pond because I made a bet. Never make bets, people. Never make bets. I made a bet. I did not think we were going to win that game, and next thing you know, it's Saturday night, and I am in a pond, and it is cold. So that's point number one. Point number two, I'm also an Alabama fan by birth. So
yeah. It's not a good start, man. This is
and
not.
then point number three to the Cowboys. I'm a Carolina Panthers fan, which most of the time means nothing. But I mean, this year, hey man,
Meant something.
this year it meant something. All right, let's get off this. Let's get out of this rabbit hole before we go too deep.
Sure.
So you move back to Dallas. You want to be closer to family. What was the process like? And this will be important for the discussion, but what was the process like of once you got back into town, finding a church, finding a place to settle down, and where did you eventually land?
Yeah, it's a great question. So my church background, I grew up non-denominational, which around like Dallas Fort Worth is basically it's secretly Baptist, or it's like secretly Church of Christ actually, which is kind of funny. Um, and so non-denominational, not great, honestly, not great preaching or anything. And so when we went to the University of Arkansas, this was like maybe towards the tail end of like Acts 29, peak Acts 29. So we founded Acts 29 church and loved it because the pastor was preaching from the Bible, and coming from where my wife and I kind of both grew up around, which was in the shadow of the Village Church and Matt Chandler. And so we had some familiarity with Acts 29, and it was a big deal, like to get a decently healthy church. That church ended up having a hard time. The pastor kind of went through a divorce, and ended up eventually like kind of embracing the therapeutic gospel. But in the fallout of that, and was making a decision to go to Southern Seminary online while I was actually going on staff with Crew, which was formerly Campus Crusade for Christ. And so was working with international students at the University of Arkansas, and found a church in Fayetteville that was a 9 Marks church. And it touched on some like ecclesiology for us that was just a huge breath of fresh air, coming from Acts 29, from a fairly unhealthy church. And we loved that church. It was an amazing experience, being members there, obviously a Baptist church. And it was congregational, generally very healthy. And then we were there kind of during COVID. Looking back on it, it's somewhat disappointing. But yeah, when we ended up deciding we're going to move to Dallas Fort Worth again, or move back home, the pastor there connected us with Matt Boswell, who's the lead pastor of the Trails Church, which is the church that we ended up coming to. And they didn't really know each other too well, just the 9 Mark circle. And Matt's a well-known person, singer songwriter, Matt Boswell. So that was a fairly easy connection.
Any songs any of our listeners would know, just to kind of give context?
Yeah, Come Behold the Wondrous Mystery, or maybe His Mercy is More. He's got some great songs.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we were connected through our previous pastor. We met, or I came down and met with Matt. And DFW is a challenging church scene. Like there's not a lot of healthy churches. I was being really particular. I wanted a Reformed Baptist church, and in the shadow of like DTS. And so it was a challenge to find a Reformed, Calvinist leaning Baptist church. I wanted congregationalism. And so we settled somewhat with the Trails. We knew it wasn't exactly what we were looking for, multiple services, which was not something we wanted. But in DFW, and where the business was, it was, we moved kind of orchestrated our life around going to the Trails church. So that's kind of the process. We landed here, we moved here, we just went straight there. We visited a couple other churches, but by the time we left Fayetteville, we knew where we were going to go. So.
And what is your business, just so people know?
Yeah, it's a coffee business. It's called Boundaries Coffee. We've got two. It's like a drive-through business. It's not very large. We've got 2 stores in the North Dallas area.
Do y'all sell anything online or anything?
Cold brew. Yeah, if you want
All right.
cold brew. Yeah, we'll ship you some cold
Okay.
brew.
If you guys want some cold brew, go support Boundaries Coffee.
That's cool.
So you find this church, you find mostly like it, like you said, you kind of had to sell with some things, but for the most part, it seems like a pretty good church. I imagine. I think I heard you talk on John Harris's podcast. You got pretty involved with it in certain like service roles and different things like that. Like how deep into this did you get, and how long were you there before the incident we'll talk about in a second popped up?
Yeah. So again, like when I was coming down, I went down. We met with Matt. I met with Matt. I spent it like afternoon or morning, like a Monday morning with him, just driving around the town and kind of thinking about where we're gonna live and stuff. And so when we came back, like, and his kind of encouragement to me was like, hey, you're a lay like seminarian. That's great for us as a church, like small church. We were meeting in a school at the time, and he was like, just like take ownership, like lead. Don't expect to come here and like ever like people kind of tell you what to do. Like this is a young church, so if you want to do something, do something. You want a ministry, like just go for it. And so when we moved back down, we kind of immediately almost were like put in a leading community group. That was great. So we were leading community group by a few years in, we were leading, I think it was the largest, if not one of the larger community groups in the church. I was leading like sanctioned Bible studies at the church. I was coordinating services. So like if on the welcome team, the hospitality, if you were serving the church in any capacity to welcome people to visit the church, I was orchestrating the volunteers for that, obviously running the coffee, reading scripture every now and then for the most part. We were heavily involved. My wife was doing volunteer administrative work for the pastors. As like non-staff involvement as you can get. We were extremely involved in the church, and I think that's kind of what led to the situation that I found myself in, with following the post, which I guess we'll talk about in a second.
Yeah, so let's get into that, because that's kind of where more of the crazy stuff starts to happen. So you make a post on X that has to do with a demographic of people that I have to say have horrible PR. They need to clean up on that a little bit. But you make this post on X, and it goes insane. It goes crazy. So what was the post that you made, and what was kind of the context around it?
Yeah, so we grew up here, right? So we grew up here. We left for 9 years and we came back and we were like, this is just so different. Not only has it grown, obviously post COVID, any sort of free town or state saw a lot of growth, right? We expected that, we knew that, but it was the demographic change was just crazy. I mean, we didn't, it was not a thought for us at all when we moved. We lived in a north part of the Metroplex where most of the town it's like cattle ranching. And so we weren't thinking like, okay, we found a neighborhood we liked. We started renting a house, and we were shocked like very quickly at just like how we weren't quite the minority like in our area, but we were very rapidly becoming the minority in our area. Our friends, we met friends immediately. They were leaving. They were all getting out. And we were just like, this is, it's crazy. Like it just sort of, just coming back and just being shocked at how different the culture was from where we left it in the town that we grew up in, or at least the town neighboring the towns that we grew up in. So DFW is a very homogenous like culture. It's kind of all one, metroplex. And so, anyways, we were just shocked by that, and it progressively got like worse. Like our friends were leaving, people were kind of moving further and further away from the church. And it was a regular conversation we were having with church members of the church about how significant the amount of the density and the overwhelming kind of amount of Indian immigrants that were living in this sort of pocket of the Metroplex, and in the issues that were coming from that. It was, students, kids who were at school who were the only English speaking student in their entire class, like, or one of three is like a very normal experience. Or your street just being like you're the only American family in your street, and and so just kind of the challenges that were coming with that. And so the post kind of came out of that context, was just it's not something that this isn't the post, which I guess we can get into some more, but like it wasn't coming out of just a random online experience. It was like it was a real on the ground experience for me, and it was a sincere like conviction that I had developed through talking to people at our church in the kind of the issues that were coming with their kids and the school system, or their jobs, or just the affordability of the area, not being able to live in like your own hometown that you grew up in. And so that was kind of the context for what sparked kind of my post, which was the criticism of the H-1B process, or H-1B visa. So
yeah. So what was the post specifically? And when you posted it, what were you trying to just, vent your frustrations online? Were you looking for an audience? Like what was the post itself? And then what was the purpose of it?
Yeah, I mean, I would be lying if I didn't say that the purpose was to draw attention to the issue.
Okay.
That was absolutely. I mean, I was online, right? So I had 300 followers at the time. I posted basically what the post was my wife actually was my 4-year-old. We never do this, but my 4-year-old was like not eating dinner. And my wife's like, fine, I'll get you a hamburger, And so she's going to McDonald's, and the road is blocked like in our neighborhood, and it's I guess a annual celebration to worship Ganesh, which is one of the Hindu gods. And so the road is kind of like blocked with cars and people walking in the street, and there's like a table, and they've like blocked off the entire road. There's a Ganesh idol, and they're like banging drums like pretty loudly, doing like chants and stuff. And so she had to turn around, and she just takes a quick video of it and sends it to me. And just thinking like, hey, like this is a conversation we've been having. This is crazy. Like this is our neighborhood. Like, why they have an idol out, they're worshiping like an idol. What's happened? Something's gone wrong. And so she sent it to me. So I posted it just to my 300 followers, friends and family, basically, who I wanted to show what kind of, even in this part of the Metroplex, what it was like to live with the consequences of some of these policies. And I think the post said verbatim, it was like a typical view in my neighborhood outside Dallas. I want my kids to grow up in America, I want my kids to grow up in America, not India. Or we have to end it. It was typical view in my neighborhood outside Dallas. We have to end the H-1B visa. I want my kids to grow up in America, not India. And it went viral like really quickly. And I'd never had anything you get the traction that that did. And pretty quickly, it got like retweeted by some major accounts. It racked up something like 25 plus maybe 30 million views on X between all the different posts. And within a couple days, or within about a day, within about 24 hours, it became like a source of attack for me. So that's when I started to receive like death threats and attacks on the business, and just a whole litany of issues, mostly coming from like foreign, like overseas accounts that were attacking, review bombing my coffee shops, And so I ended up, in the dead of night, deleting it because I had very little support. And I was happy with the attention to some degree, but I was not happy with the attack on the business and me getting doxxed. I wasn't a public figure, so you could just Google me probably, go through LinkedIn and find all my information. So it wasn't locked down. And so when I was kind of exposed to that, I was, I was not happy. I didn't want that kind of attention. I was willing to take it. I was willing to take it. And then it started hitting the business hard, and that freaked me out. Like I don't know. I wasn't ready for that. I was ready for the personal attacks, but I wasn't ready for the financial strain that it was going to have on my business. So that's why I deleted it.
Like I said a second ago, this demographic has a horrible PR problem, and they are not helping themselves. It's crazy. You obviously struck a nerve, which I think was a good nerve to strike, but you obviously struck a nerve with this whole thing, because when you have foreign accounts that are review bombing your business. But I think that I would chalk it up kind of the provenance to the fact that this thing blew up when it did, because I remember seeing it, and I didn't know who you were or anything, but I remember seeing the post before you deleted it. And it was during a time, since last Christmas, we've been having this ongoing conversation about H-1B visas, the dangerous effects of them. And, before we get into the blowback that you experienced from your church, I just kind of want to talk about, like, do you think that the fact that this has become a larger nationwide issue that is garnering this conversation from even people like the vice president and from mainstream conservative figures? Before he died, Charlie Kirk was talking about, we need to end H-1Bs. We don't need any more Indian migration. We're good on that. Do you think that the fact that it was a national conversation that was already happening kind of encouraged you to go to post this and to say, hey, and add your voice to the conversation?
Yeah, I think before Christmas, nobody even knew what an H-1B visa was. So, and I think I was pretty ignorant to the widespread. I didn't even know you could find like the data on, publicly accessible data on who's hiring. I mean, I had my hunches. I was like, okay, Amazon probably, like maybe Microsoft, obviously, some of the big corporations.
You go and search some of the names, and some of them are very disappointing who you can find on there. But
yeah, and even the numbers are like confusing. So they may have like 200 they applied for this year, but they have like the previous ones that are continuing on. So it's like the 200 consistent. It's very like the numbers are shocking. And yeah, I think that was a big experience for me. Even I remember that very well. It was like Christmas Eve or Christmas Day even. I think that popped off on X, and I think it's like, yeah, I think it's touched a bigger conversation even for me, like theologically. It's like, what is a nation? What does it mean to be a citizen of a nation and to serve its good? What is it like? How do we understand like God's sovereignty and our duty to our neighbor versus to the foreigner and the stranger? Like there's a whole litany of questions, theological, anthropological, that have like not been answered. And that question it's become, I don't know, I think like a flashpoint for those larger questions that people just have not addressed in their own thinking. And so yeah, it hit a lot of different issues, I think, at one time. So
yeah, for sure. And these are questions, like you said, they have a theological basis to them. So you would think that the church would be able to help, kind of, even if they don't have an answer right out, they would be able to help walk through it, help kind of look through, Christianity, the Christian tradition, church history, look through the Bible, try and figure out, okay, how do we approach this issue? How do we talk about this issue? That's what you would think that the church would do, but instead you found yourself in a very different situation. So let's walk through how your church reacted to this. So what happened first? I think I know that you mentioned a phone call from your elders. So what happened? Kind of walk us through the timeline.
Yeah. So the overarching timeline. So the post goes up like Saturday evening, I think. By Sunday at church, I'm serving and I'm getting like death threat emails to me. And I'm like, okay, it's kind of bad, but not the worst thing in the world. By 3 a.m. that night, I was alone, and it was like they were taunting me. Like, Jesse, they were like, I was getting messages that were like, "I see you're awake," like it's 3 a.m. Like, really, like it was crazy, and I was freaking out. I was like freaking out,
Whoa.
and I was alone. Like I had no support. There was nobody. There was no cavalry coming to save me.
I see you're awake is a crazy
totally.
thing to send somebody.
Yeah, like you should go to sleep. Like it's late. Like it was just like, and this one account was like hammering me on it, and I was freaking out. And so my wife is she's 8 months pregnant at the time, maybe plus a week, and she just wakes up. She's getting the threats too. So she like wakes up. She looks at her phone. It's like 3 a.m. She's like we were just blindsided, right? And I was like, I'm deleting it. I just like, I don't know. I'm freaking out. So deleted it. And I really wish I didn't, honestly. I really, because I didn't have a problem with what I posted.
Mm-hmm.
I had a problem with like the blowback that I was getting. And I didn't really, and it was really like other people were getting the blowback. And I was like, I don't really ask like my wife to be a public figure. And like, we haven't had this conversation. And so maybe I should, maybe we should, I don't know. It was just a little quick, a little fast to be under the gunfire like that. So, that happened. That was so like Monday morning essentially, and then Monday at like 11, maybe noon, I got a phone call. They set up a phone call with 3 other elders, and I was thinking that this phone call was like, "Hey, how are you doing? You locked everything down. Like, what's going on? Okay, well, this is what happened. And I'm getting these threats and I'm getting these extortion emails and taunting messages. And my wife's getting like threats of abuse, okay, well, how can we like support you or whatever? And that was not the concern at all in the phone call. The right off the bat, the concern was, and they may have asked like, how are you doing? But the point of the phone call was to tell me that I've sinned against my neighbor, that I've harmed them with what I've done with my post. But there's good news. You just repent, and it'll be fine. But you just need to repent. And I was like, and I told the others, I'm like, of what? Like in loving my neighbor, like I'm loving the members of my church who I think are harm like being personally harmed by these policies. And I'm not a fan of idolatry in my nation, on my street, and in my neighborhood. And so I think I'm sincerely acting out of love for my neighbor, like the member of my church, and the American that lives on my street, and even the Indian immigrant who needs to be called like repent of idolatry, and who also agrees with what I'm saying. I want my kids to grow up in America, not India. Like I don't see the harm and I don't see the offense that I've caused. I see that people are offended, but I don't think I, like an objective sense, offended them. Like I didn't,
right,
abuse them with my words or something. So yeah, it was the first phone call. Again, like an hour and a half or so.
It's the same kind of offense like telling a trans person, hey, I'm sorry to tell you this, but actually you're not a woman. Like, that's the kind of offense we're talking about here.
Yeah, like an offense that's like it's not because of like you're not prudent with your words or something. It's like you just say the objective fact, and it's offensive to them, and that's that's sorry. That's fine. I didn't sin against you by saying that. And so that was a phone call. So it was like Monday, we had a phone call for an hour and a half. Then Wednesday, we had a phone call for another phone call for an hour and a half. And it was basically just like, hey, have you changed your mind? Like, are you going to recant on the post? And I was like, no, I really don't think that I've sinned like against anybody. And I was adamant on, I'll meet with anybody. I'll talk to anybody at the church who feels like I've wronged them you're like, they're commanded to do, like if their brother sinned against them, like they go to him. And, they like had nobody in mind to talk to. I think they had received the only objective thing that they told me that they received as far as blowback was a email from a pastor out of state saying that I used racially charged language. And I was like, well, it's just not true. So, I mean, I was like, yeah, yeah, it's not true. So I don't know. Like, I'm like, shouldn't that just stop the conversation? Like, it's just factually not accurate. So, um, and so we had that phone call. Then we met on Sunday, that Sunday, the following Sunday after church for like 2+ hours. It was so long. And they wanted my wife there. We met at the church, and they just hammered me for hours on. They had, I believe, I think it was that Sunday. I'm sorry, I'm getting my timeline a little bit mixed up, but it was like Monday, Wednesday, and then I think it was actually the following Sunday. And we met at the church, and by that time Charlie Kirk had died, actually, which changed the conversation a lot. And at the Wednesday phone call, I forgot to mention, like, that's where they made it clear, like, this is church discipline, like the process you're in right now. And I was just like, I don't know, like, we're at an impasse because I'm not recanting for what I posted. And it was essentially the decision was like, either like you confess that you're a racist and you like hate Indians, and like repent of that, or you're like just continue through the discipline process, which would be like eventually removal. And
So
I was just like,
let me make sure I'm getting this right. They choose to tell you that you're under church discipline and that you and your pregnant wife, who, like you said, she's like 8 months pregnant, possibly could pop at any moment. They tell you and her that you're under church discipline and you need to meet with them the same day that the one of the biggest, most prolific Christians in our era, in our modern era, gets murdered for the entire world to see. Somebody who I think I've heard you talk about, he had an impact on you. He had an impact on me.
yeah.
They choose that day to tell you, hey, by the way, you're under church discipline.
To be fair, this was like an hour before Charlie was killed.
Okay.
It was, which is like the degree in which like God's sovereignty like laid out the timeline was truly incredible, just in our own personal lives as well as like the national conversation. It was really amazing. And but yeah, we hung up that phone call, and it was just like a couple hours. Literally, I was still in the car sitting where I was sitting to take the phone call, and I'm like, I just get a message like, that he was shot. And it was like that was a very like sobering reality for me. And I was pretty adamant that I was like, I'm not going to recant on something. I'm not going to confess a sin. You're asking me to be a liar. Like, I'm not doing that. I don't hate Indians. I spent 2 years at the University of Arkansas sharing the gospel with Indians. I rarely, like, I was sharing the gospel with guys I work out with who are Indians. Like I was like, I offered character witnesses. I was like, I don't know what to tell you. I don't hate people based on the color of their skin. I simply oppose like these policies and the extent to which our nation is like, there's too much hospitality. Like we can dial it back because it's harming the citizens. Mm-hmm. And so when Charlie died, it was just like, yeah, I was like, for whatever resolve I had before that, it was 10 times after that. I'm like, I'm not going to be a coward. Like, I'm just not, I'm willing to lose whatever I need to lose, but I'm not recanting or lying or, acting without courage on this issue. So, and I had a great sense of peace about it. So when we went into that Sunday meeting, the tone was totally different, because we was going in with like, you're racist. You need to repent of your racism. You've sinned against your neighbor with the post. And then on Sunday, it was like, we're digging through like 2 or 3 years of your X account, your, posts that you've had on there. We are, and they've got like 3 posts that they like are pretty adamant on, and they're truly just misunderstandings, like a meme that they just didn't understand.
Common.
And like, yeah, just truly just didn't. It was like, oh no, that's not what that means. It's the opposite. Actually, it's the opposite of what you're saying. It was like Kevin Costner on the truck saying, like, they thought I was saying like an American is like, it looks like Kevin Costner on the back of a truck. I'm like, no, you're missing the point. It's okay, but I don't have time to educate you on the memes. So it's simple misunderstanding. That's fine. And I told them, like, look, I'll delete anything that's not clear. Like, I'll delete that. I'll delete stuff that if you're like, hey, this is not wise, delete it. That's fine. The post before I deleted.
Sometimes I wonder, because of stuff like this, if we need to have like age caps on Twitter accounts.
Well, all the elders. So in this meeting, there's 7 elders and a staff guy, and none of them are online, and none of them clearly like, and that's fine, whatever. I was like, I told them, like, I don't expect you to have a conviction about this. Just leave me alone. Like, right. That's all I want. Just, I want to act in love of my neighbor. I want to do what I think is right. And I said what I said. I deleted the post. Like, I deleted it. And you're not even asking me to do that. You're asking me just to confess something that's just not real. Like, it's, like it's just a lie. And so we did that for a couple hours. I had my wife come, which is like, looking back on it, I'm like, what? That was so dumb. Why did I say that was okay? And we were going into it. She was like, yeah, I'm just, she was real quiet. And the only thing she said, it was actually so funny, Jesse. She's like, she's of course just like super like defensive of me, but like not talking much. And this one point, all these elders were sitting there, and I've brought this up with the elders. I'm like, you all agree with what I'm saying. You just don't say it, and then you're faulting me for saying it. So it's like, I was like, you guys are all, I was like, literally all the elders that are there, every single elder that was there, almost positive, every single elder. Maybe there's only 2 elders who have not sent their kids to the private Christian school down the road, which costs $22,000 a year to send your kid there, per kid per year. And I'm like, you've had 3 kids, graduate from there. You've had 3 kids graduate from there. Like, I'm like, why, that's cool. That's great. I don't fault you for that. Like, I would love to send my kids there too, but why can you just like cut a check and retreat behind the effects of these policies? Meanwhile, like, so many members of your church are out there, like, left, and they're at schools where 70% of the population at the school is foreign born, like 70%, or they're one of in a class of 23 kids, they're one of 3 or 4 kids that speak English, or like, there's so many negative effects that people suffer. And yet, like, the guys who are criticizing me for speaking up and calling me racist cut these checks and retreat behind the walls of the effects of these policies. So that conversation on Sunday, this is where my wife was like, your kids go to that school, right? And the elder just floundered for like 5 minutes. It was so bad. It was very uncomfortable.
Oh, no.
I was like, Heather, oh my gosh. But
shout out to your wife.
Yeah, dude, she's ferocious sometimes. But she did a great job. So yeah, but it was like, look, that's fine, but don't, like, come on, so yeah, that conversation ended with like literally handshakes and like, hey, I'll take my licking. I get it. If you don't want me to, like, of course they had already pulled me from like Bible studies and leadership position, and from my community group, which was like it's so like embarrassing and ridiculous. And so we had 18 couples in our community group, and like now I'm like attending, but I can't lead it. It was weird. And so yeah, we have that meeting. So it leaves with like, hey, I get it, you're mad at me. I don't want to be removed from the church, please.
Mhm.
Let me sit in the pews, and I just want to be a member. And they were okay with that. At
Okay.
least they said they were. And then I think kind of a week went by, and I posted I thought it was over. Like I thought we were out of the
Mhm.
disciplinary process and kind of things were like chilling out. But I wasn't recanting on my position. And I really wanted the elders they had clearly not thought through these questions at all. Like,
Right.
what is a God honoring like immigration policy, and how are these affecting our members, and how do we think about us as a nation, and our people as like citizens of that nation? Like they hadn't thought through any of that stuff, which is fine. I get it, but I wanted them to. And so I ended up posting. Actually, a member had sent me a clip from a King's Hall podcast. I posted a clip of it, which like verbatim covered my issue, which was, what would get you in more trouble, like saying something that's perceived as racist, or like error on the doctrine of the Trinity, like heterodox on the Trinity. And that was kind of my frustration with the elders. I had been texting. Ended up texting one of actually several of them, and was just kind of starting to, after the dust had kind of settled, to like, okay, I want to like convince you, because I had their ear. I felt like I was like friends with some of the elders, and so I started kind of pushing back on some stuff, or like not pushing back, but just kind of being like, hey, consider this. And I, sent that text out, sent some of the clips out, and never heard back. And like a few hours later, I was like, all right, I'll just post it. Not saying by this point, no one knew I had a problem with my church. And so I posted it. And within like 30 minutes, I got a text from Matt saying like, we need to meet. And like, we need to meet like, in like a few days, in 2 days. Like it was like Monday, and we need to meet on Wednesday. And I was like, like 7 o'clock on Wednesday. Like I don't. And then wanted my wife to come. I was like, no, I don't think so. Like she has to take care of the kids. That's like bedtime. We've never had a babysitter. I don't want to do that. And so we ended up I ended up saying no. And then it was at that meeting that went for like another couple hours with more elders, and they told me to leave the church, which is, according to our bylaws, is the way of removal. Like it's up to the elders; they don't have to vote. They just tell you to leave, which is actually really unfortunate, given that we're a Baptist, like SBC affiliated,
Mhm.
supposed to be a Congregationalist church, and you can just like remove people. So yeah, it was pretty crazy. I was pretty disappointed. And then I go home, Jesse, and literally I'm telling my wife this story. I'm like, you're not gonna believe like what they just brought me in to do. And she goes into labor like an hour later. And so our son was born like 9 hours later. So it was pretty wild. But
That is crazy. That again, God's providence is kind of funny sometimes. It's kind of funny sometimes when he aligns things to happen. But I think you had mentioned, and my apologies if you did say this, there's a lot of information there.
sorry, yeah. I ran through a lot.
I think you had mentioned that one of your elders like completely took out of context or misquoted what was said in that King's Hall podcast. And
Yeah.
I want to give a shout out real quick. King's Hall, amazing podcast. Don't always agree with everything they say, but they are great men doing great work. We had Eric Kahn on the pod back in March to talk about post-war consensus. Go find that episode. Go check it out, guys. If you're watching, great episode. But you had mentioned that one of your elders had just completely misrepresented, completely misquoted something that was in the podcast. Can you kind of share a little bit about that?
This is like, there's so many, Jesse, honestly, it's like crazy. The amount of stories like in these conversations that is just like, so half the time, like I'm like pinching myself, like, is this actually happening? Like, are we actually saying that? Some of the comments, you're like, what? Like, this is not even like theologically so convoluted, and like, whatever. But yeah, this was an example, was like, yeah, in our last meeting, so going into the King Saul podcast, they clearly like delegated this elder to listen to the podcast that I had sent out to the other elders. Like, hey, like this is a podcast on the issue. They did a great job with it. Please like listen to at least this section of it. Give this some thought because this is where I'm coming from. I know you haven't thought about this. Like that's cool. Give it some thought and see if you like understand or sympathetic to my conviction, right? And so I send it out. This guy listens to it. He's been like the most antagonistic to me the whole time.
Of course they put the one that's the most antagonistic to listen to it.
I mean, like, it was crazy. And I had elders who were friends. Like I had a couple elders who I'm like, hey, I feel like they would give me the benefit of the doubt and they would like actually like I would love to work through this with them if you gave me some time. And they just like didn't. Like they just ghosted me. They weren't involved at all, except they just attended no one would talk to me except for in like a formal setting in the meeting. It was so ridiculous. And I would have loved to just like,
who needs enemies?
yeah, totally. I mean, gosh, it was just so disappointing. And yeah, a huge lesson there. But yes, they delegated out to this elder clearly. I mean, I'm just reading between the lines based on the conversation, I guess. But he's in the thing, they're like acting like this is the fact that you shared this podcast is another like evidence of your racism. And I was like, how? Like what about the podcast is racist? And they're adamant, this one elder is adamant that he said it called Indians subhuman. And I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, I mean, I don't listen to King's Hall very often, but like that there's no way that they said subhuman. Like, I mean, I know enough about those guys to know like they would not say that in a podcast, at least. And so I'm like, I don't think like, I was like, I would totally disavow that position, period. Like, I think that's just bad anthropology. Like that's heretical. Like I disagree with that wholeheartedly. If that's a position they're saying, like, I'm sorry. And I was like, I'm so sorry. Like if they shared that podcast, like if they said that, which I was like, are you sure? And I went back to him 3 times in the thing. I'm like, are you sure? Are you sure? Because there's just no way. I listened to it, but I mean, I didn't listen to it super well, but I know they didn't say that. And he's like, yeah, they said that. And I was just like, okay, like if they said that, I'm so sorry. Like I would never share a podcast that says that, even if the section I shared, what I agreed with. And, anyway, so it was like that was a main evidence for like the final straw of the relationship, is when they were like, you have to go to another church. Like other churches may welcome you, like on this, we don't. Like you basically get out, right? So and in about 20 different ways over 2 hours, leave the church. And so following that meeting at the church, yeah, I was, son was born, so I was a little busy. And then like a couple of days later, I go back and I'm like, there's just no way. So I listened to the podcast again. I pull the transcript. I'm searching. I'm like, they don't say that. And I find subcontinent, like the geographic region. And I'm like, that's what he made the mistake on, right? Like, okay, he heard subcontinent, just benefit of the doubt, he misunderstood. He's not used to the conversation, whatever. And he was hearing what he wanted to hear or something. So I text him privately, hey, asking him, I was like, hey, I know things are done, but like, can you just correct the record with the other elders that like I didn't share a podcast where, and these guys did not, have a podcast where they said Indians are subhuman. They wouldn't say that. Please just like, a simple like, hey, noted. I literally was like, you can just say like noted, got it. Well, correct the record, just in front of people. Cause I was like, felt like I was slandered in front of people. And he was like, he wouldn't say that. And he was like, no, like I'll meet with you or something. And I was like, I don't need to meet with you. Just if you can
we've had enough meetings.
We've had enough meetings, dude. It's over. Like I'm leaving. Like, you know what I mean? Like you told me leave. Like you told me leave. So like it's over. I don't want to sit down and talk to y'all again. And he's like, I'm like, dude, just give me the timestamp or just tell me like you'll correct the record. A simple like quick apology via text is like will be totally acceptable. And he just like won't respond to me. And I'm like, okay. So then I just email the elders. I'm like, hey guys, like the main piece of evidence against me on the racism charge was this. laid out by this elder. It was clearly a misunderstanding. I'm asking in front of you all who are in attendance, like for just some sort of like record correction, like character correction, that I did not share a podcast that said that. And just an email would be fine. That's all I'm asking. Like just a simple, like, got it. Sorry, we'll move on. I'm not even asking for you to like, welcome me back to the church. Like I'm just want something, please just remove the slander.
Because I would imagine at this point you're like, okay, even if they were going to welcome me back in, like I don't know if I can stay here because who knows what else kind of craziness they could bring up in the future. I imagine you're probably already looking for another church in the back of your mind.
Yeah, I mean, like it's like I was sorely disappointed. Like the more we got into the conversations, the more I was just like, holy smokes, like we just see things so differently. You guys are in a theological place that's just so off the rails, and even just the wisdom and prudence of this entire situation is like, I'm not going to be able to submit. I'm not going to like, and for me, like, to them, they viewed my sharing of the post as like not submission to them and insubordinate. And I told them like, I didn't mention y'all. It wasn't even like hostile to you. It's just a disagreement with y'all. It's not insubordinate. I truly I think we should have a relationship where like we just kind of disagree with each other on something, like that's really fine, and we work through it. And my submitting to you is sitting for the 7+ hours of conversation that we've had in the last 2.5 weeks over this topic, which I sorely disagree with you. So, yeah, by that point, it was like, I even if they were like, please come back, like, I don't know if I would have done that or something, but it was clear in the dynamic that they told me to leave repeatedly over 2 hours plus. And yet they wanted just like a quiet, like they wanted me to just find another church, and like they didn't want to go through like a formal disciplinary process that wasn't even in the bylaws. So, but yeah, that was super disappointing. They didn't ever respond. Like they never responded to me. I had multiple outstanding emails and text messages asking for like written communication as far as like, what is the sin that I'm being asked to repent of, and how, like, what would repentance look like to achieve like what they're wanting, because it was just like very confusing. On one hand, they'll say, it wasn't the political position, but then in the meetings they're like, but you can't voice the political position. Like I asked them, like, if I was a congressperson, would we be like a congressman, would I still be having this conversation with them? They're like, yes. Like you can't say what you said as a
I doubt that.
That's crazy. Yeah, of course. Because if I had like a microphone, they would have treated me differently. But but they like
I highly doubt. Yeah, I highly doubt if who is a congressman from that area, like,
oh gosh,
I don't know. Yeah, like Wesley Hunt, he's running for Senate. Yeah, we'll grab him. Sure. If Wesley Hunt, sitting congressman who is running for Senate, he's out on the campaign trail and he says exactly verbatim, word for word, what you said, and he is a member at that church, there is absolutely no way they would call him in and say, hey, we're concerned about your rhetoric and your there's no way.
No way.
I would, if there was a church, now, not for this, there are very few churches that I think would do that in this country. If there was a church where somebody that's running for public office or who holds public office actually, doesn't say something that offends whoever, but actually does sin publicly in a very public way, and the church called them in for a meeting, that would be amazing. I would be like, wow, I respect you guys, because nobody would do that. But yeah, there's no way, if it's Wesley Hunt or Ken Paxton or whoever, if they're not going to call them in. So to say that is kind of crazy, just knowing how most people will operate.
Yeah, they were mocking me in the meeting. Matt was mocking me in the meeting because I had a post that said, "Make church discipline great again." And I was like, I think that's hilarious. Like, I think it's a great post. And because discipline is it's obedience to God. Like there's a good process of discipline, like sanctifying the church, making sure the church is not full of like unrepentant, like, non-Christians. So especially Baptists, like Congregationalists, like it can be a really good, healthy process. And I've seen it play out at previous church, very, very well, but it was 6 months of dealing with somebody over like sexual immorality, like public sexual immorality, and then them holding out themselves out to be a Christian over and over again, and then finally just being like, we have to remove you. This was 3 weeks over not even an objective sin. Not a sin, like it just like is a very subjective, like the offense to them was that it was it hurt feelings of people, or of not even members of the church, just like people, and
some random pastor from out of state
it's bearing false testimony about me by lying and saying I use racially charged language, which I've never have. And so it was a very disappointing time. Obviously it was like it was a huge wake up call. But yeah, it was wild. It's terrible.
What was the reaction of the other members of your church, like members of your small group, people that you were friends with, people that you knew within the church? Was there any reaction that you could tell? Were people like asking you, hey, what's going on? What was that? Did anybody like try to stand up for you? What was that like?
Yeah, I mean, most people had no idea what was going on. Like it was so fast. That was kind of the point. So even members of our community group didn't even, like, if they missed our community group that week, they never knew anything about like me meeting with the elders, up until the point where I was removed from the membership. They, like, when the elders removed us from the membership and sent out an email to everyone saying, like, they're not members anymore. There were guys in my community group who didn't even know. They were like, what's going on? Like, so most of the people who knew, and I was very careful about talking to people, because I knew, like, if I'm like talking to people, it's going to be seen as like sowing division, and like it's just going to be negative. So I was very, very careful. There was basically 2, maybe 3 people that I talked to about what was going on at the church, and they were people who approached me first, and I would just answer their questions. So even the guy, like, I would say 2 of my best friends at the church, like, I didn't talk to them about what was going on, just because whatever I said to them went off to other people, and I knew it was going to screw me up. So
I don't mean to interrupt you, but I do want to commend you for a moment, because I do think there's wisdom in that. I know of people who have not gone through what you've gone through, but have gone through difficult situations, clashes with leadership in various spheres that they're in, and the impulse is to go run and yell to everybody that you can, hey, look at how they're mistreating me, look at what's going on. But I do think that at least while the process is ongoing, there's a lot of wisdom in the approach that you took, which is, and I think this is a learning moment, for everybody that's watching this, which I just want to point out for a second. Congratulations on breaking the record. 824 live viewers. This is a record. Thank you for that.
Cool.
But, I think this is a pretty good learning moment for everybody watching. Like, if you're going in the middle of something, it would be imprudent and probably for your own protection strategically unwise to just go and start yelling to everybody, hey, this is going on. Hey, I need, that kind of thing. So I do think there's prudence in your approach. So you mentioned that there were unanswered emails, unanswered text messages, things that had not been dealt with, or things that had not been said. How did they alert you to the fact that they were formally removing you, or did you learn that through based on your reaction? I'm guessing the answer is no. How did you learn that you had been removed from the church?
It was so convoluted. So, like, basically even with the story, so just so people understand, initially the Blaze media reached
Mhm.
out about the business, the attacks on the business. That was their concern, was like, hey, this guy, this is an American who voiced his political opinion, and now there's like overseas accounts attacking his business, like delving, like affecting, domestic like discussion about foreign policy or something, right? Or immigration policy. So that was their concern. In that interview, I like they asked, how I'm doing, and I was like, well, I've got this thing with my church a little bit, and they're like, well, can we write about that? Like we're kind of interested in that, and I was like, no, you can't actually. Uh, this especially right now as I'm a member at the church,
Right.
and I was very adamant. I'm like, to Sebastian, the author, I was like, dude, no, you're not. I'm not gonna. We're not gonna talk about it. But he knew about it, and so he did an article before about the business, and so we stayed in
Mhm.
touch, and he reached back out later after I think my son was born, and was like, how are things going? I was like, it's they kicked me out, like they told me to leave. And he was like, okay, well, like, can we write an article now? And I was like, honestly, yeah, I mean, if I'm not a member, but I was like, but I don't know officially if I'm not a member right now, like I don't know what's going on. And during that time, yeah, we basically looked up, and on Sunday night one week, they sent us an email. Someone told us at the church that, hey, they're like commenting on you and Heather, my wife, about not being members there anymore, and that they were not going to answer like public. They weren't going to answer a media inquiry. And then they sent what had read a statement. They sent it to us, and that was news to us that we weren't like we both weren't members, which is not a Baptist. Like, it's not a thing to do.
Right.
Either I'm not a member, like I don't know what my wife has to do with it. She's like not even participating. And what they were what they were saying was that when our giving went out on October 1st, and my wife, who's the administrative support, uh, emails in reply to the receipt to take us off the giving system, that was a request for removal from the church, which was like just completely just inconsistent lie, not true, just terrible. And so, but it was news to us, so we didn't know anything about that. So then October, like, Sunday comes, and they make that statement. We're like, hey, so I email immediately back. I'm like, hey, just so we're clear, if we can remain as members, we want to be members. Like we're not
Mhm.
trying to leave. We at least want to be members until we can find another church, if that's what you'll have us do. And we don't want to be released to the world. And we have never asked to be removed as members. You've told us to leave as members. And they didn't respond. And so 2 days goes by, and Sebastian's like, is it okay now to post the article? And I was like, yeah, dude, let's just go for it. And so he posted that, and then finally they replied to all my like outstanding emails, a few hours later, or maybe like 6 hours after that post goes live, and it's like getting good traction on X.
Mhm.
So yeah, that was like super. The ending was terrible, and that's just part of the whole process. That was such bad church disciplinary process. Was it's supposed to be removal by the majority, as Paul lays
Right.
out in First or Second Corinthians. He references the man who sleeps with his mother's wife, or his father's wife. And and so because it was just like, because the bylaws are not congregational, and because the elders can just remove you, it made this like weird convoluted ending to the whole issue. But I mean, it was they kind of their position right now is like to have their cake and eat it too. It's like, we didn't remove him, but also he was in a
We kind of
disciplinary
did.
process, but then he just quit. But which actually would not be acceptable to any church. Like if you're in
Right.
discipline, if you're in the disciplinary process, you can't flee the disciplinary process. Like that's its own issue, right? So it's just
A
inconsistent. It's
It's a
crazy.
classic. It's not happening, and it's good that it is.
Yeah,
Which is
exactly. Yeah,
which
totally.
is
Yeah,
usually what you see
yeah.
from leftists. And I would assume that from what you told me at the outset of this, these guys, you wouldn't think that they were leftists, but here they are operating like it. But it's funny to me. I'm sure they were not expecting national media outlets to pick this up when they decided.
They had no idea. They would have treated me completely differently if they knew that they were going to have to back up and stand behind their decisions.
Mhm.
Like, there's just no way to me, I was like this, there's a lot of things with that, but they didn't think that I told them. They were like, hey, you're not, why are you delving into politics? Like, and I was like, well, I'm actually, like, I'm
I'm a
somewhat
concerned
involved.
citizen.
Yeah, I'm first off, I'm a citizen, and it's my right, actually, and just I don't have to be a professional politician to, like, speak out on political issues. But number two, like, I was like, I've raised some money for some candidates. Like, I'm not necessarily, like, not
Mhm.
political person. Growing up, like, I was kind of a Fox News fanatic when I was 13 years old. Like, I was a weirdo. So I'm like, I'm politically
Sound like
engaged,
me.
at least. Yeah, we probably were very similar.
Yeah,
Uh,
both the nerds over here.
yeah, so it's like, but then it's, for them, like, it's interesting. There's a lot of different things that the reason why it's gotten the traction it has is because obviously you got the domestic, like, you've got the immigration policy
Mhm.
that it touched on. You've also got, like, the third wayism element that in light of Kirk's death, martyrdom, you have, like, Matt is a disciple of Keller, and so that was the big,
There you
like,
go. There
that.
you go. That just explains
Yes.
everything. That just
Yeah, he's literally a disciple of Keller. And so for me going into the church, like, I just thought, like, look, I don't bring my politics in the pews. Like, I kind of, like, I was just one of those people. I'm like, look, I have strong political opinions, but, like,
Mhm.
I'll hide them, unless it's, like, right in the text. Like, I'll just kind of keep it to myself and respect the church's kind of public position on these issues. Like, if they don't have a strong position on immigration, like the elders don't, then I'm not going to, like, force that into my Bible study or something. Like, I'm going to respect that. That's not in our statement of faith or confession. So,
Mhm.
um, that in light of this, it was like, oh my gosh, that was so ignorant. I thought I just wanted to be left alone. But for them, like the third wayism kind of approach is, you also have to leave it alone. Like, we won't have fellowship with you if you find it like a significant issue. You need to refrain from engaging in political action or something, or political speech, in order to preserve your evangelism. And I just, even with Kirk, it's like, I just wholeheartedly disagree with that. That's not the way to do that. That's not the way you share the gospel with anybody.
Exactly.
You touch the issue, like, in front of you, right? Like, if you're sharing the gospel with someone who's if you're, like, you mentioned transgender before, like, you're you're crazy if you're not addressing the sin right in front of you.
Right.
Like, you need to call them to repentance, and not just, well, we all need to repent and we have all sinned. It's like, I brought up, like, the idolatry, in one of the meetings, and, like, well, we're all idolaters. And I'm like, dude, like, okay, like, yeah, I guess, like, kind of, but, like, this is physical. Like, this is idolatry bearing fruit in the hands. Like, this is not like, I like sports too much. Like, this is bowing down to an idol. And,
Yeah.
just stuff like that it was very frustrating. So,
That's absolutely insane. We're all idolaters.
dude,
Okay, I don't have a statue of a pagan god in my room in here.
but
Like,
that's Tim Keller. That's kind
yeah,
of
that's
Keller. Like,
literally Tim
yeah,
Keller. And
yeah.
like you said, these guys are Keller disciples. It all makes sense when you put it in that perspective. But I mean, it still doesn't make sense, but it does. It makes more sense than it did. In the aftermath of these last couple of weeks. Oh, also, wait, I just want to touch on this a little bit. You also got kicked out of your gym, didn't you?
Dude, my gym, that was so random. I was like, I had just joined this gym, and one of the elders worked out with me. Like, we're like, that was our thing. Like, we worked out, like, every morning
I
at
have a
6 a.m.
theory. I don't know if I want to say
And
it.
and then I knew one of the coaches. Like, one of the coaches kind of, like, convinced me to come join. And I just, like, I was, and when the fallout of all this stuff, I don't go to the gym for, like, a week or two,
Mhm.
maybe a week and a half, because I'm just, like, I'm so busy dealing with the business, trying to save my business. And yeah, I walk in, I work out on, like, the following Friday. I go and sit down, a cup of coffee, and I get a text message like, your membership's canceled. Like, you're out of our values. I'm like, what? And I literally I passed by the owner. Like I became friends with him. I was working out with him on Saturday, and I was like, hey, what's up, dude? Like, good to see you. And I knew something was off because like they weren't like excited to see me after like a week away. Which, anyways, so I was just like, dang. My wife is like, it's so funny because my wife's like, hey, you need to work out. Like that's a reprieve for you. Like you're stressed out.
Guess
You'll
not.
feel better. Like I work out, and then I'm like, what? Like this is like I can't work out there. Like that doesn't make any sense. Anyways, it was so dumb.
I don't want to speak where I'm not an expert, just because, I'm still in law school. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not an attorney. I'm not giving legal advice, but I can't help but wonder if there's not a lawsuit in there somewhere.
I just like, dude, it's at least just dumb. Like it's like I didn't, for me, like I didn't use my business to enforce my political views, right? Like I wasn't like Boundaries Coffee is against like foreign immigrant. Like it's not like I don't do that. And my
Boundaries Coffee is only against bad coffee. That's the
only Boundaries. Actually, it's a funny name, given the topic.
And it's kind of ironic given the
but like this guy inserted his business into the you know what I mean? It was like, hey, you have a political opinion, you're like going through, and they knew about the issues because of the article, and then they're like, because of that, we're not gonna. It was ironic because I partnered with an Indian guy for my workout, which was like, it's what I do. Like I'm a friendly guy and I don't hate people. Like I just
what do you know? What do you know? You can oppose. It's crazy.
Yeah.
No one realizes you can oppose mass immigration and still be friends with people.
Yeah, totally. In fact, when I was at the University of Arkansas with international students, like some of my best friends, like I lived with like Japanese guys and like we share the gospel with Saudi Arabians and Jordanians and Yemeni guys, like led in faith in Christ. It was amazing. And the best relationship was like, hey, I'm here temporarily. I respect, like, I love America. I respect the country. I want to learn about it. And part of that was like, also because you want to learn about America, we're going to teach you about Christianity. We're going to read the Bible. And then you're going to go back in 2 years. Like, and they left like with the gospel, and they left and they met missionaries in their country if it was closed, or they got plugged in with the church there. And like there was no conflict with in fact, it was such a healthier relationship. And that was the thing I was adamant with the elders on, was like, these policies create animosity. Like you're telling me I'm have racial animosity. Like when you force 70,000 foreigners into this, this area, small pocket of this town, and they watch the town transform overnight, and suddenly they're competing with jobs and housing and even traffic and the grocery store. Like you will not create loving each other and neighborly affection, and you won't create evangelism. You drive out Christians, the gospel is going to go with them, the churches are going to die off, and you get just animosity between each other because you're competing constantly, and it's not a respectful relationship. So
it's always funny to me that even if you don't name, like you said, I want my kids to grow up in America, not India. Totally rational point of view. Something that I think most Americans probably agree with. But it's always funny to me if you don't put a country into it, and you just say something like, I disagree with the idea of mass migration because we have a ton of people here who are moving in. They're not assimilating. They're creating cultural conflict. They always default to, oh, you must be racist. Dude, if we had 70,000 Serbians living in my backyard, I would be afraid for my safety. Do you know how crazy those people are? And they look like me.
Yeah, and that's what I like. It's why I'm saying Americans. Like I want my kids to grow up in America, not India. This is my personal opinion. Like we've grafted in different ethnic nations into the history of America. So America is It is not homogenous in many capacities. So it's not the conversation is not racial. It's national, which is why even some of the biggest supporters like of this position are like African American guys who like they bear the brunt. They feel like they bear the brunt significantly for like the effects of these policies because it's really just middle class people. Like
Yeah.
if you're middle class, you're the one who's facing the consequences of these actions. It doesn't honestly, it doesn't matter what the color of your skin is, like because it's purely if you're an American and you want to live here and work here and take the inheritance that like your parents worked hard to provide for you. And some corporation wants to ship in somebody from across the planet who will work for significantly less money because it comes with American citizenship, which is a big deal, or at least the prospect of that, or for their children American citizenship. They'll do that. They can cut their bottom line or they increase their bottom line significantly, cut their labor. It's the same reason they ship jobs overseas. It's the same thing. It's probably worse in the sense that it's like it is a slave owner. Like there's a lot of issues that come beyond that in terms of the dynamic. So yeah, it has nothing to do with with the race. Position on the policy has nothing to do with the race. I don't even like there are issues with that. Like you can delve into that. That's not me. That's not my thing. If people want to delve into that, it's fine. And talk about those things. To me, it's too touchy. And so, I'm frustrated that I was called a racist for not even speaking about race. But for a lot of people, that's what they see behind every corner. So,
Yeah,
which
I got a couple more questions, but I want to
Sure.
get to a couple of comments here real quick.
Yeah.
Isaiah LaFone, good friend of the program. I was on his show not too long ago. Yo, what's up, Jesse? Nice chairwine. Thanks, buddy. And then we have a comment here from Elizabeth G. Christians are afraid to speak up because it appears unkind. I'm also afraid of publicly speaking out because I work in tech and Indians are in every organization. And,
Yeah.
we said at the outset of this podcast, we kind of talked about the last Christmas, the Elon and Vivek blow up. And I mean, honestly, I am generally pro speaking out. You should speak out about issues. However, I think you also, depending on what your life circumstance is, you should be strategic about it.
Yeah.
I don't care about appearing unkind so long as the positions that I'm holding and the way that I'm speaking about them are coming from a place of love and gentleness and respect and whatever. But I don't care if somebody takes that as unkind. Sorry, I don't know what to tell you, man. But I think there is also, you do have to, somebody like you, Elizabeth, you said, you work in tech, Indians are everywhere. That is so true. And that is part of the reason why we do need people like me and Daniel here speaking up about these issues, because you have to be a lot more careful about this with the situation in life that you're in. Because one wrong word, you're going to HR, you're probably getting fired from your job. Depending on how well connected or how big your company is, it's possible you could get blacklisted from other companies. I don't want you to go through that. And so if you're in a situation like that, 90% of situations, I would say, yeah, speak up about things you care about, speak out about the issues. However, if there are particular issues that have particular consequences like this, yeah, Elizabeth, be careful. Please be careful. We don't want you losing your job over this.
Be shrewd, for sure.
But so just kind of in the aftermath of what's happened, the Blaze article comes out, you're starting to gain some more notoriety. This becomes a national news story. You're going on podcasts like our friend John Harris and different things. You're here tonight. What has been the reaction from some of the people in your church, your old church that you know, that you knew, that you were friends with, in the aftermath of all of this?
Yeah, there was a pretty decent exodus from the church. I think a lot of people were on one hand, they were not surprised, like they had inklings about where the elders felt or where the elders landed on some issues. But when I say like the majority of the church agrees and is very vocal in conversation about the issues that these policies are having in this very specific part of the country, that is no exaggeration. It is a regular topic of conversation. Like it's having generational problems effects on a lot of these people. And I think, some people, obviously to varying degrees, may be like off put by like how strongly I voiced my opposition to it, but almost entirely I've even had like people who, almost entirely, I'd say like 70% seem to like at least be on my side of the issue. A lot of people obviously are not willing to leave the church over it. They're not willing to also pick up everything and leave. So if they were heavily involved, they generally are just kind of hunkering down. And then there's a decent portion that are like, in a full agreement with the elders that I'm, a complete racist and deserved, had to face I think one of the ways somebody said it to me was, you face the natural consequences of your sin. And I'm like, okay. All right.
You can't help some people. There is no helping some people. This is.
Well, it's amazing if you just ask the question. Like I think I'm so confident, like even in my own life, like going through seminary and studying, like you look up in a couple of years and you're like, wow, I've like really thought through and I have a different conviction, than what I did. And I think there's a lot of people who I think will look up in a couple of years and be like, wow, okay. Like, I think maybe he had something to say, and I maybe don't agree with like how, willing he was to like die over the issue, but I agree with him. So yeah.
Absolutely. We just broke 1,000 live viewers. Let's go, dude. This is awesome. Thank you, everybody that's watching. We're breaking records tonight. We love it. How is the search for a new church going? Have you found a new place that you are going to settle in? Obviously, if you don't want to name the place, understandable, but have you found a new place that you're settling in? Or are you still looking? How's that process?
I would love to name the place that I think has been like the most welcoming to us, but I haven't asked them actually. So maybe I should do that first. But yeah, it's been interesting. I had a funny conversation. I think, this is a good example of like what this is doing for people. I had a guy reach out to me. This happened like to some degree or less, to more degree, significant degree or less, for the few people. But one guy was like, hey, I'll connect you with this pastor in the town and you can meet with him. And he's like, a day goes by and he's like, actually, he doesn't want to meet with you. Actually, he doesn't want to talk to you.
Actually, he wants nothing to do with you.
Exactly. And I knew that was going to be the reality. And so I was like, I just let the guy like go with it. I'm like, yeah, dude. Like, okay.
Oh, okay.
And then I'm like, who's the pastor? Oh, okay. Yeah, I understand. Like the connections, there's like a network of money, I'm like, literally. Yeah. And it's like, it's Matt Boswell. Like Matt Boswell was the guy who drove everything. He wasn't an elder on the board. Like he was the pastor who like, and Matt was my friend. Like it's crazy. So Matt is a big personality in like Southern Baptist circles. So, that spoiled a lot of it, right? And anyone who like would receive us as members, and I should say, by the way, officially we are not welcome at any church events or the service or anything like that. So that was like at the end, like after the article went live, it was like, hey, you are absolutely not welcome to even attend. So anyways, and that's apparent to other churches, I guess, in the area. But yeah, there's been a handful of pastors who have reached out to me directly and been like, hey, you're welcome at my church. And they know who they are. And it's been super kind. We found a church that I think we're going to land at. It's really far away, but which is a hard part. That's the hard thing is like, it's so like, so we'll probably move. So we'll move closer.
Well, I mean, you have been doxxed, so that might be wise.
You know what's amazing? This is one of those elements of like God's kindness towards us is I don't own my house. So I'm not on the
There
tax
you go.
records. And that would have been a very different dynamic, I think, if
Yeah, that might have.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thankfully we slip under the radar for that. So yeah, we'll and then it's the other thing is like we'll move. So we don't own the house. So I'm self-employed. So like and buying a house is so hard. So we'll just
Mhm.
move and find somewhere else to live. But yeah, it's been interesting. I mean, I've been asked to like run for office, which has been cool. So I'm exploring that. Um, and generally like, you know, I didn't lose any staff. I didn't have any like I had a lot of people stop coming to our stores, and so there was a significant revenue hit. But then I had a lot of people come by and army vets
Mhm.
and people who like you want the support of. They've come by and they're like, dude, thank you so much. Like, you know, I served, I went away for 5 years, I came back, and I'm like, what has happened to my town? And you know, thank you for standing up and saying something. So I feel a lot of resolve and honestly, the friends that I've made, I've lost some friends, but the friends that I've made have been they're brothers. Like
Mhm.
they're amazing. So and you know, you go through something that's challenging in God's kindness, you come out a lot stronger than when you went in. So it's been good.
Elizabeth G. Yet again. Thank you, Daniels, for speaking out about this. I think this is a spark that helps others to recognize that we don't have to live this way. So
It's
true.
true.
It is very true. We don't have to live this way, and that's something, you know, broader political, just real quick, broader political situation, looking at it, we were forced under conditions for a long time that nobody wanted to live under. And we are learning more and more each day. You know, you don't have to live this way. You know, mass deportations, that's what got Trump the election.
Yeah.
And you cracking down on crime, hopefully opposing H-1B visas and cracking down on those. I mean, we already saw that they're making some moves in that regard. I hope for more. But, you know, we'll see what happens in God's providence. It's starting to get a little bit late. Oh, what? Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was just gonna say I was told it's so funny. Matt was like, they were mocking me for like, are you really gonna cause an effect? And then one of my friends who's like very well connected with the administration was like, hey dude, like this moved the ball. Your post moved the ball,
Really?
which was crazy. I was super fired up about. So
Wow, that's
I hope they do
awesome.
stuff. I mean, even DeSantis thing today was great. Like
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
uh
Yeah. That was
I mean,
awesome.
that's a small step, but like, look, the governors have a lot of power. I mean, Texas's budget for public school systems is enormous. Greg Abbott, you know, he doesn't have the guts to do it, but he could absolutely have a significant effect. And Texas is one of the worst offenders with the H-1B visa. Like, it's terrible.
I told you. I told you earlier. My fiance's family's from
Houston,
Texas. Yeah,
yeah.
Houston. And I
So,
know that this is popular online, but you know, Governor Hot Wheels is what I hear sometimes. But
dude, the only thing man, he sent the illegal immigrants to Martha's Vineyard, which was like that was the first time anyone had done that. So
I
you
was
know, that
conflicted
was
on that
good.
policy. I was conflicted on that because, on one hand, yes, let's send these people to these wealthy libs who are causing this and see how they like it. But on the other hand, I was also thinking, why are we sending these people deeper into the interior of our country if we're not even sure who they are?
I mean, they do that. It's
It's a give and take.
Dallas. I don't know. It's we have a lot of work to do. So
We have a lot of work to do. Daniel, thank you so much for hopping on. Thank you for sharing your story. Where can people find you?
you can just follow me on X if you want. At DJ Keene KEENE 1, the number 1.
All right, awesome. Thank you, Daniel, for joining, and thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you all. We are breaking records tonight. We have 1,042 concurrent viewers at this moment. I'm sorry if I seem a little flustered. This is just awesome. This is just awesome. Thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate all of you. Thank you all. God bless. I hope you enjoyed watching. Make sure, share it with your friends, share it with your family. This is up on YouTube as well. If you're watching on X, if you're watching on YouTube, this is up on X. And within the next hour or so, it should be up on Spotify as well, an audio version. Share it with your friends, share it with your family. Let people know what's going on out here. And let's see if we can move the ball on the H-1B visa issue and hopefully also prevent other people at churches from getting kicked out for speaking about things that they wholeheartedly believe in. God loves you all, and so do I. Thank you so much. God bless, and have a great rest of your night.